If you're in technology, you guys know what I'm talking about. Check your inbox. Everybody's trying to sell you that. If that's the case, and the consultants are going to the biggest companies to do that, right? Guess what? They recognize that there's an architecture problem. They don't have the unified data reference architecture. So,
And I mean, it's become a cottage industry that there are just consultant implementation teams for some of the CRM. I mean, it's
yeah,
we've hired them and paid them hundreds of thousands of
Oh,
dollars to set it up, only to be broken later.
yeah, yep.
yeah.
They come in with a pretty slide deck, do some work for you, leave, no maintenance, right? And you're just kind of stuck. Well, what if you have a platform that like, okay, you're not stuck. We're going to give you all your data. How do you want to transform it? You want to transform it? You know, the conversation Billy talked about in the early podcast, you know, I was doing some pizza. We had a guy, you know, a client reach out to us and was like, hey, I need to figure out what this is. And he really didn't, I shouldn't say, but he wasn't exactly sure what he was trying to look at. Now he knew what he wanted. I didn't know how to look at it or, okay, cool. Well, then, you know, me and Billy talked literally for like 2 minutes. I think it ended up being an 8-minute video. But hey, here's the 8 data sources. Here's how you reference those data sources. Here's how you bring it in. And oh, by the way, the sheet that I'm sharing with you, you don't have to do anything except call your data from your source and it all works real time. All the logic's there, all the rate formulas, functions, formulas, links, everything's connected. So just turn it on, plug and play, right? Because we already have these things.
Yeah, what he's referring to is we had a company come in and visit with us a couple of weeks ago, I guess now, and they come in, they ask their questions, and literally, he built an 8-minute video and sends it over to them, and they pop it into Sarah, and boom, they got what they asked for.
This is how you do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes too, though, you know, I think a lot of business owners, they don't know. That's why it's so important for your engineers and your business owners to have that FaceTime and just really go over those things because, you know, I keep saying Jeff because, man, he's been so aggressive about it and I love it. Is he, you know, when I first met him, he kept saying, you know, I can't do this and I can't do that. Man, if he keeps going at it the way he is in a year, he might be taking my job too. I mean, he's writing dictionaries
goal,
now.
right?
Yeah. And he's really getting after it, which is just awesome, you know. And now I feel like when I talk to him, I don't, you know, I felt weird when I first came here. Maybe not everybody understands my language except Billy. I can tell you, Jeff, he's starting to understand my language for sure.
Yeah. I know 10%.
Oh, no, you know more than that.
Feels like I know 10%. No. Yeah, I mean, because I must know more than 10% because it only takes us 2 or 3 minutes and we got it figured out, right?
That's right.
And then we just walk away. We're just
Exactly.
like, oh yeah, okay, good. And we leave, and then the next thing I know is we got this new thing. So
Yeah.
that's how I like working around here, and that's the excitement, you know. Why I can't wait to get here every day, because it's just fun what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, you know,
Industry changing.
yeah, I mean, like I said in the last podcast, I mean, we're at the very beginning of all of this because there's really not anything out there addressing this situation. So it's a 100% opportunity.
Yeah, man, you can't make something scalable when you got to take years to go back and fix it. So these, you know, I think we're really going to be at the cutting edge, you know, where we're at, where we're going, you know, the growth that we've had, you know, to say, you know, year over year, 25 to 7% growth, it's pretty powerful. When you look at the COGS and the EBITDA, what Billy Go's done, and then how it's been applied, you know, it was real easy when I connected QuickBooks to see the story. I don't know if you remember, Billy. I'd stopped you in the hall one day and like, man, it's a beautiful story. You bit the bullet that first year, but boy, it's been beautiful after that. You know,
yeah, you did say that we bit the bullet the first year.
Yeah,
but we had to get started. We didn't have any customers.
Yeah,
zero
customers using your own money, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just part of the game. You got to be ready for that. So it was so beautiful to see it. And then, so you have that scalable solution and the company continues to scale and grow. And now you're acquiring outside of the company. Now you're adding products that you can sell that can support other lines of revenue. And so as you aggregate more and more of this data, you're just going to get more and more insights quicker, and the platform is only going to get better. And, as we get, it's going to be beautiful to just connect more and more and more as we scale and grow with our customers versus the big company that's going to say, it's going to be like a year because we have to go read back and do this. Or, hey, we built this thing on the wrong database, and this database doesn't support the things that we want to do. So we've got to go through that legacy tech stack transformation that Landon was talking about. Right. And that's painful. And all the customers are going to feel it. They're going to see it, and they're going to know what it is. With Sarah, it doesn't have to be that way. They just got to talk to us about what their problem is, and we just need to connect it for them. As long as they maintain the clean data set, right? And then once you get in Sarah, you ain't got to do that, right? That's what AI is for. We can transform your data types. We can run scripts to keep it, you think of like the date timestamps. Well, sometimes milliseconds don't display a pretty visual. You got to take the milliseconds out. You only go to the second. Sometimes you can go to the minute. Sometimes you only want a date. Sometimes you want to look at it as a view of a week. And, all these data types determine what visualization you're going to see and what level of experience does the operator have and what view do they need to see. And again, there's not really a right answer to that. It's the experience of the operator, this perspective they have, the view they see it from, and the scale at which they've grown, because it's different. I mean, what's the difference of a millisecond in combat or in the Wall Street market? Significant. What is it for call rail? It's insignificant. We can't say that, that was an opportunistic call, right? But, Wall Street combat, it's milliseconds count. So all those things, right? How do we see it? So, I mean, that's the beautiful thing about AI, the way that Sarah's set up, how we can implement that technology on top of the platform without changing that architecture, because we're not legacy, we're not old, we're not stuck. We're not, we don't have to rebuild our engineers or those engineers. If you haven't gotten new engineers, and think about the different languages that systems are written in. I remember what system I was playing with. It was written in a Unix language, and the Unix language for a database is like, for a timestamp was like every second starting from January 1st, 1970, right? And that total number you had to then transfer into a today date timestamp that's readable and ingestible, right? There's a gap between the engineers of the old and the engineers of the new. And there's been so much advancement in the last 3 years. Where do you find those guys that's been working in the 5 to 7 year space? Right. And then how do you connect them with the older guys who did those legacy tech stack build outs that can help that person even move the needle much, much faster? So that's where the coach and the mentorship comes in and so significant. And there's a huge age gap there too, right? Like our kids were built with a phone in their hand since they were kids. They can still do stuff that we probably can't. Like, wow, how'd you learn how to do that? I don't know. I just do it,
Well, I've always found it so ironic and funny that Billy's in the software business.
Right? Yeah. So it keeps me young.
It must be. Sometimes I often wonder. No, you know what? I wasn't satisfied. I just wasn't satisfied, and I saw the need. I've met so many contractors over the years, and I saw the same struggle. Didn't matter if there were 1 million or 100 million. I kept seeing the same struggles over and over and over, and no one's really solved for those struggles. Still, we just built software to organize and file things. Right. I call them digital filing cabinets, and that's not what I wanted to build. I didn't want to build a digital filing cabinet. I wanted to build something that was going to help you operate a business very simply. When Travis is talking, you may get lost a little bit in this podcast because he's talking some really high level stuff. But at the end of the day, the more high level he becomes, the simpler it is for us. to use. And that is the whole thing that I'm trying to, bring
Yeah,
out
I'm glad you said that, because at the end of the day, it's keeping it super simple. But it takes somebody that thinks about the future in the mind when they build out. Don't just put out the fire right now and move on to the next thing. Put out the fire and make sure it doesn't come back. Control it as much as possible if it's not a controllable factor. And then what are all the variables that you can put in place to make it controllable? Right. Those are the, because we don't, and you're right. I think a lot of us technologists, we make things maybe sophisticated, or we talk at this certain level. It's not intentional. It's just the computer science way of talking. But again, that's 1/3 of the problem, the leadership and the art. And guess what? The leadership and the art isn't more important than science, but it's 66% of the pie. If you got a good craftsman, you got a good specialist, you got good leadership. You've seen, Alex Ramosi said, you don't need software until you have a $10 million company. You need Zapier and Excel. That's it.
Yep.
And so if you have the leadership and the art, right? Mm-hmm. So it's just understanding that. I mean, at the end of the day, it all comes back down to people.
Yep. With all this stuff that we're talking about, AI, software, all these things, it always comes back to the people.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's what we're trying to solve for, is how do we solve for these people so that they can make these extraordinary businesses and have that opportunity to sell them if they want, because everybody's wanting to buy them, right? But you got to have something to sell. First and foremost, a PE firm is not going to invest in a crappy business that makes no money. They're going to invest in something that's already doing pretty decent.
Yeah, right? That's another interesting thing you said right there, right? So tech is going to add a 3 to 4x multiplier in your company.
Yeah.
It's 1/3 of the pie. It's going to give you at least a 3x return.
Yep.
Well, on that note, so you guys, I know you keep up with the technology. See Elon Musk's new release of his robots the other day?
Optimus and
Optimus,
XAI. Have you seen XAI, right? He's going to make some killer money off that.
About investing, because I wouldn't mind having a fleet of robots that don't talk back that could go out and fix air conditioners and plumbing. What do you think?
Well, so from that perspective, it's going to be interesting, right? And so there's some, it's too early to tell. I think I'll be honest that, Tim's in here, and I had told Tim, like, definitely it's $30K. Yeah, I'll buy one now if they have it, just to help my wife with the groceries and maybe even spank my kids when they get out of line, because my teenager's bigger than my wife now.
You got to be careful, because if you put in the wrong setting, they may end up spanking your wife. That's a whole difference.
You say that. My oldest daughter looks exactly like my wife, so that'd be horrible. And I'm sure we'd never have a robot again. But those robots, so they've limited the use of their joints in case it goes rogue. When you start talking about stuff like that, like, hey, humans, fingers can move, so many degrees, but a robot's going to move so many. Right. And it's limiting, and it's intentionally limiting until they can get beyond all these hallucinations and some of all those things that AI creates. But that's not a threat. That's not a threat. Again, that goes back to, okay, I got to go do an install. How many guys we need to do an install? Well, how about half the dudes and a robot that I know can do these particular tasks? That's just the opportunity to make more money. And that's what everybody wants to do. So, and it's not like the jobs are going to get less and they're going to go away. They're not. All these things are still going to be needed. And then you think about some of your sophisticated installs, right? Some old house, you've got this thing built in the attic. You got to move the water heater from this place to that place to do this thing. And, the robots, I don't know, 5'5" and 140 pounds. Well, you need a guy that's 5'2" and 100. So just all these things, you're not going to be able to create all these different use cases and scenarios. And I think you'll always need some type of command and control, from a human.
Yeah.
There is no truth to the rumor that you're actually a robot, right?
Not at all. And maybe the Army made me one, but I try not to be.
Every week we're here to give you nuggets, golden nuggets, if you will, to help you run your business better. And it's very important that you like and subscribe so we can build this channel and we can help everyone in this industry as much as possible. So thanks again for watching.
No BS with Billy and Landon is produced and delivered to you by Sarah Systems. At Sarah Systems, we've created a better way to run your home service business and unlock unprecedented growth. Our field service software was designed by real home service professionals to help you save steps, charge for previously unbillable time, and win more business. But the true change requires more than software. Our live coaching helps you understand and control the aspects of your business that matter most. It's about time for a new era of service, and we're leading the way. If you're ready to join the hundreds of other contractors who've been able to increase profit margins more than 50% within 6 months, visit sarah.tech today. That's Sarah, SERA.tech today.